You're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup's Young People in Politics Personal Political Profile with me, Roisin the Cleric.
Me, Paul Brophy.
And we are doing our personal profile on one of our regulars on the County Council Caucus Roundtable panel discussion and a Young People in Politics segment, Councillor William O'Leary.
Hi, Roisin and Paul, how are you? Good to be back again.
Yes,
It's good to have you back.
good to have you back, William. And just to give our viewers a little kind of a background about Councillor William O'Leary. Councillor William O'Leary, he represents the Fermoy Municipal District as an independent councillor on Cork City Council. He was first elected in 2019 under the Fianna Fáil banner and was re-elected in 2024 as an independent where he took the poll. William resigned from Fianna Fáil in March 2024, citing that the party's failure to listen to ordinary people, and he also disagreed with the party's direction within the coalition government. In June 2024, as I mentioned, William topped the poll in the Fermoy local electoral area with a whopping 2,920 votes, or 17% of first preferences. William also contested the general election in 2024 as an independent candidate for Cork East, where he secured approximately 10% of the first preference vote, but was ultimately eliminated in final stages of the count, coming sixth in a four-seat constituency of Cork East. And in July 2025, William was elected as chair of Cork's Cork Committee for the 2025-2026 term. Councillor William O'Leary, you're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
It's always great to have you on, especially having young people in politics, and also the fact that you are in Cork, where my daughter is living.
Oh, very good. Yeah, very good.
And at the moment,
County.
you are up in my home neck of the woods you're in Buncrana, and just down the road from Derry.
I am. I'm up here with the last 2 days, so we have a conference up here yesterday and today. It's my first time. I've been in Donegal, but never this far north towards Mellonhead, and like I was saying to you beforehand, there a fair spin up. I can tell you, a fair spin up. They have to get a Cork to Letterkenny flight going, I think.
I think
so. Yeah.
Cork to Derry, even Cork to Derry.
Yeah, definitely.
Even Waterford to Derry, Roisin.
Yeah, but he's Cork, so he's right beside the airport.
That's true.
I know, look, it was an enjoyable trip up as well. You saw,
A good airport flight from Cork to Derry, and then you could just hire a car or get a taxi from Derry City Airport to Buncrana. That would only take about 20 minutes.
I looked, like I said, I popped into Derry today. It's only 15 minutes over the road as well. Like, so you definitely. Yeah, look, there should be something from we're the furthest part south, and I think it would open up a whole. I don't think I can see Ryanair or Michael O'Leary putting a flight on anytime soon. But definitely, look, there's always an interest down in the south of Ireland about going up to look at the north. A lot of people haven't, and look, the old long distance trek in a bus or a car sometimes might put one off, So there's definitely something to look at. Yeah.
Well, maybe I know it's not in your constituency. Maybe the new owner of Waterford Airport might do something. For the new owner, the American investor.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, something anyway. Yeah.
So, William, you are it's nice to see young people entering politics and getting elected and representing the people. So we're curious, and we've done personal profiles on the Irish Political Roundup. So tell us a bit about yourself. Whereabouts in Cork did you grow up, and are you living?
Well, I suppose first and foremost, I'm in the middle of being young to middle aged. I was 35 a few weeks ago, so I'm hitting midlife now, I would say.
No, you're not. You're young.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I don't feel it, but So no, I'm from Cormac in Cork. Born and grew up there, still there, living at home there still. So from a family of, I have 7 siblings. I'm the second oldest of that cohort of a family, I would say. Would have grown up, would have went to school locally in the Cormac National School, would have went to secondary school in Fermoy, would have gone to Limerick and studied I would have done arts in the University of Limerick, you know, history and geography would have been my subjects, but the big part of that was it was history, geography, and politics I studied really as part of that arts degree. So kind of came out of that. Spent a couple of years working for a local TD and a good friend of mine in his office, Kevin O'Keefe. But would have gone back working in the family business thereafter. During that and after that, then I suppose I worked for my own father we have a haulage company based in Little Island. So that's where I work at the moment and to this day. So look, that's the real bread and butter, trying to help them keep that on the road. But yeah, look, would have been elected first in 2019 and re-elected again in 2024 to Cork County Council. So that'd be the bones of my background really in terms of living status and education.
So you're the second eldest of 7 children.
Yeah. So yeah. The youngest, my sister's older than me, and the youngest is my youngest sister. Rose. She's 18. She's doing her leaving cert at the moment. So there's a good variety of age there as well. So yeah, that is the look a very good relationship with all the siblings, you know. Big families sometimes there's always something causes havoc, but we've been lucky all our lives that we've been very, very, very. We're all very close and good parents as well, who always would have backed us to do whatever we wanted to do as well.
Good family values.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, you get up and go to work, and you know, I said to my mother and father, well, I won't be having 7 anyway, because I could see it's not. It's you know, it's I suppose the 6 of us would be kind of close in age, so we would have cost them a fortune between college fees now and just in general, you know, there's a bit of a gap to the youngest. But so look, I was very grateful for the support we got at home, you know, and look, I was told to do whatever we want, and what happens after, you know. Yeah.
And William, would you come from a kind of a political family, or were your family kind of very active in their community?
No, I'm active in the community, certainly, yeah. You know, my parents would not be one bit political at all, whatsoever. They would have voted, and their vote would have fluctuated from election to election, to be honest. I suppose from my father's side, my grandparents on my father's side would have been strong Fianna Fáil, all right, yeah. But then my mother's side, like my mother's father, my mother's father, my grandfather would have been in strong support of the Labour Party in Cork City. So so that would be that in terms of my parents. No, they were never too political. Probably taking more of an interest now when I come home ranting about certain things and they're wondering what's going on. So they're definitely, because of my probably because of my as I'm a member of Cork County Council, they're certainly more aware of politically what's going on since I became involved. Yeah, but again, they wouldn't be. I still have to ask them for a high preference at election time, to be honest. Because look, like I said, they were never tied to politically to anyone. No.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Well,
because look,
I think. Sorry.
No, it helps because when you come home from the job, you're not being bamboozled by politics at home, because look, they're like I said, they just wouldn't be political, like, you know. So look, that helps in the job as well. Yeah.
I thought I was political.
It just goes to show, when you go outside your front gate, the only vote you can guarantee on is
my own.
Yeah.
I've learned that, and whatever you're told, you're getting divided by 2, or no, divided by 10. So yeah. So I would have been elected first in 2019. You know, that would have been my first election. Hold strongly for first time out. I think it was 2,100 votes I got. You know,
Wow.
I was a member of Fianna Fáil at the time. You know, in 2019, you know, it was a long 5 years, I can tell you, from 2019 to 2024, you know, because you're learning to do the job, and there was so much. Look, we'll probably get into it here in a minute anyway. There was so much else went on during that time frame between COVID and a lot of changes for me personally and politically, like, you know, that would have, by 2024, I was probably, you know, in a different place altogether, like, you know. I suppose the only commitment I made to myself in 2019, people say, the only promise I made to myself and to people actually in 2019 was that I said I'm not changing, because I see so many people getting into it and they do change, you know, and I said I'm not changing. And some people say to great cost, others say you stood by you stood by yourself, you didn't change. And maybe that didn't suit some people, that I was the way I was and who I am. And certainly probably ruffled a few feathers, like, at the end of it all, like, but sure, come here, look.
And you said you worked for Kevin O'Keefe when he was a TD representing Cork East. Did that was that the kind of ground, and is that where you kind of got the kind of I'll run for local politics?
No, I was always interested in politics, don't get me wrong. Very much myself. I never got up every day and said I want to be a politician. Definitely not. It was just the circumstances that arisen in 2019 presented an opportunity to run. I wasn't plotting months out that I was going to run. It came on me very quick. Do you want it? There's an opportunity here. And I said, look, the one thing I said, I said at the time, I would run, because I think 20 or 30 years later, if I didn't run, and even if I didn't get elected, I think I would have regretted not running at least once, and that was definitely what drove me to run the first time. That I would have been always very involved locally anyway, in terms of GA, in terms of other groups and clubs, so look, just the circumstances allowed me to run. It wasn't something certainly wasn't plotting at home from 12 years of age to be a politician. I can tell you that wholeheartedly. Definitely not. Yeah.
You weren't an accurate.
So you studied politics, geography and history and politics. And when you think politics is a lot of history, and you have to know your geography about locally, regionally, nationally and internationally. So it makes it a good sense of a combination. Whilst you were in college, did you join the Fianna Fáil Political Society?
No.
No, right.
Even though I would have, I just never. The youth wings of parties were not for me, I can tell you. I was an old man in a young man's body since with a long time, and just look, student union politics was just something that it suits some people. The youth wings of political parties suit some people. It just wasn't compatible with me. I think I went to one meeting and that was enough.
Yeah.
Not critical, and we need young people involved in the youth wings of parties, absolutely, and and politically involved. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing it, absolutely not. I'm just saying,
it just wasn't for you.
It just wasn't for me. I would a lot of, like I said, I would have, and I hope I'm not putting anyone up by saying this, I would have been interested in politics, but not obsessed about running for elected office. Whereas I felt when you go into a room with some young people, they're very engaged, they're very smart, but you could be in a room with 20 people who are highly ambitious, and all they're thinking about is, how am I going to get to Cllr, And look, that is good in one sense, but it kind of creates a Machiavellian sort of an atmosphere, at times, I would say.
It's about getting there, isn't it? It's about getting there.
I'm not here to tell young people not to join political parties. I look, everyone has a set of morals and values and a set of beliefs, and who they are and what aligns with them. And I'm not telling them not to do that. I'm just saying it didn't suit William O'Leary to be.
It's a lot more to politics than just saying, "Oh, I'm on the road to Dáil Éireann," because you have to get elected. Yeah. You've got to have people skills. You've got to be community a community activist. You've got to be active within your community,
especially local politics. Yeah, you have to be willing to be very active locally. With people, with groups, with all ages. From cradle to grave. You have to be. I would have always been very, I suppose. I would have been very close to my grandmother, so working with elderly people and working with that section of society was always something that was very important to me, and is to this day, to be honest, But like I said, look, everyone is different. Everyone has a different approach to the job. Everyone is different as to why they enter the elected office. I'm not here. We need more people entering the elected office of all ages, of all backgrounds, but I'm not here to tell people not to do that. It can be the best job in the world, at times, but it can be a bloody hard one as well, But at the same time, it doesn't matter whether you're on a building site, in an office, working in hospitality, working in politics. You've good and bad days in every job.
Yeah.
So my life really isn't that whole different to anyone at all. It's not different to anyone at all. We all have great days, and feel fulfilled in work. You could have bad days. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. I think we all that applies to everyone.
So William, like, you left college, and then you left college, and you then ran in 2019 for Fianna Fáil. What was the deciding factor? What motivated you, inspired to actually make that decision that you were going to run for local politics and for Fianna Fáil?
Look, like I said, it came upon very quickly. It wasn't something that I was considering at the time. The opportunity just arose to run. There was a redraw of the local electoral area at the time, which opened up. They felt there was a chance of, at the time, of gaining a seat in a part of the area I'm from, and they just felt it was an opportunity to run. So look, it wasn't something, like I said to you earlier, I was plotting or planning with years. No, circumstances just came upon me that allowed me to run.
What was the deciding factor that you would run?
Probably, look, I've always been interested in politics, but look, I would have regretted probably not giving it a go at once. And obviously, look, I felt I could help. I felt I could be of benefit to the area. I think you have to feel you can be of benefit to your local area, and you have to feel you have to have a graph for your local area, which I do. So that was obviously major factor in why I ran as well, Roisin.
You just
And William,
orientated and community orientated.
Yeah, always have been. Yeah.
William, when you got elected first, who kind of within Cork County Council did any of your colleagues, be it in Fianna Fáil or other parties or independents, did any of them kind of take you under their wing and kind of like, kind of mentor you or guide you in your few years?
Look, I suppose I would say, people are good to people up there in general across Cork County Council in terms of elected members. They would be good to you. They would help you. But look, I'd be a bit of a lone ranger anyway. I would kind of try and find things out myself and learn myself and do things myself. Look, I have friends across the political spectrum, to be honest. From all political parties. And it's like a hurling match. You can go in and you can argue things, but when the referee blows the whistle at the end of a meeting, part. You have to take that approach. You can't come out tearing the heads off each other because nothing will get done. But look, plenty of people would have been good to me. Probably too many to name, actually. Paul, to give you the short answer to that. So yeah, to tell you the truth. But look, my at the same time, Paul, I've had the same friends since I was 4 years of age at home. They're the people that really advise me and guide me, and people who I turn to for help. In politics, look, you have a lot of working relationships. My friends are not politicians. They're the people, and my family, they're the people that will ultimately, whose guidance and counsel I'll go to at the end of the day. Full stop.
Certainly keep you grounded, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say some of them would say, William, some people need to kick up the backside every so often. You need one every day. So I certainly get that at home in Rackharmock. Yeah.
When you were younger, or even to now, you're from Cork.
Yeah.
And you have the Taoiseach, the Micheál Martin down there, but it's also famous for Michael Collins.
I should come here. Look,
Michael Collins, I'm talking about in history.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it doesn't matter what side of the political fence you sit on. Like, if you're from Cork, you have a gra, and you have you have that gra to Michael Collins. I would still regard myself as a strong Republican. They can, without party label, nobody owns or dictates who's a Republican. I think we have some parties who have tried to claim ownership of it and are going to tell people you're a Republican and you're not a Republican and we're Republicans. I'm a Republican, and I don't need anyone or party label to tell me I am or I am not. So I definitely looked at Republican side of the Civil War, even though I wouldn't say a bad word about Collins. I definitely would have. I definitely would have been on the other side of the fence in that argument. Look, I love history. Look, he was dealt a difficult hand, I would say.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and even I'd be big enough to acknowledge that. He was dealt a difficult hand. And look, it was.
As he said, he signed his own death warrant. De Valera sent him over, and he came back and he said, "I signed my own death warrant."
Well, look, it's just such a contentious time in history. Look, as he said, it was a stepping stone. Collins said it was a stepping stone to greater freedom. In one sense, it was. In another sense, it wasn't, because the country's still partitioned.
And I'm from Derry, and you're up there. You can see it.
Yeah, so like in terms of the border, in terms of that stepping stone to greater freedom for the whole country, certainly, we haven't gained 1 inch of ground since 1922. So it was probably a stepping stone in many ways, but for the ultimate, freedom of the island of Ireland, no, it probably wasn't. It probably copper pheasants partition of England.
Yeah. And Michael Collins, at 32 years of age, when he was murdered, like, he achieved a lot. He was like the first minister for finance, and he organised a big national loan, which kind of funded the early Irish state. So for a man, for somebody so young, he achieved a lot in a short space of time.
Oh, sure, an incredible personality. Look, and
against all odds.
Yeah, against all odds. Definitely the War of Independence crushed the British administration and British rule in this country, and didn't allow the British administration to function administratively in this country for that period of time. And I would say as well, look, Collins is a great man, but even De Valera is a great man as well. He wrote the first constitution, kept us out of World War II, which, at a time when neutrality now has been spoken about so much, and when triple locks are being spoken about so much. I think the Irish people, have always been drawn to neutrality, and that's because of Dave, to be honest. We don't like wars, we don't like conflict, I've been saying lately, we have to. I think we're being drawn to one side of certain world conflicts at the moment. And we're moving away from, being the conflict resolution is what we've always been good at in this country. Conflict resolution, we're increasingly taking sides. And some side, what's going on in the world in certain things is wrong. But we have to be the promoters of peace worldwide. And I think, I would say we've certainly taken a step or two away from that over the last number of years.
Do you think if a referendum came tomorrow? Now, referendums, the governments have always got it wrong the last couple of referendums.
Yeah.
Do you think the people, they won't put it to a referendum anyway?
No, they're going to legislate for it, I know. Yeah, sorry, and that's the question, sorry. Yeah.
No, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
If there was a referendum, do you think the people would disagree with the government and say we're staying neutral?
I think it would be absolutely 100% the Irish people would back neutrality.
Yeah.
100%, and would. You get a lot of political figures saying at the moment, we don't have control of because of the triple lock, we don't have control of where we can send our troops. Look, we've had great work done in the Lebanon as peacekeepers, and in Congo in the early 60s, and in other parts of the world, and they're saying, we can't leave China or Russia have a saying where we deploy our troops on peacekeeping missions. But America has that veto anyway. Why don't they? Like, there's always Russia and China. But America has a veto over where we send our troops as well. But they of course they won't say that. So yeah, I think people would copper fasten that neutrality further into our constitution if they put it to a referendum, and they know that as well, the government, and they will not put it to any sort of a referendum. They'll just legislate to remove the triple lock. That'll be the first step. We'll go further down the line of alignment to NATO after that. It mightn't happen straight away, but certainly after a number of years. Do
you think are we concentrating too much on international issues?
100%.
And not
enough? Yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%. Like, we're sending I think I have it. I don't have it written in front of me, but I think since November to now we've sent 450 million out of this country to Ukraine, Gaza. 450 million, is a hell of a lot of money given, our overall exchequer and things we can get done and can't get done, and that is really annoying people. People will say, typical O'Leary again, he's ranting on about, that it's people are annoyed by it, because people are not seeing delivery on the ground here in terms of infrastructure. They're not seeing an improvement to their cost of living standards. They're seeing nothing, and they make these announcements about we're sending 20 million to X, Y, or Z. I don't want to keep mentioning the countries they're sending it to.
Yeah.
But they do it to great fanfare. They make a big song and dance out of we're doing this and we're sending it out.
We've got 5,000 children homelessness. Just 5,000
absolutely,
children.
absolutely. Like people, like we spoke about in the last session we had.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. People are just, it's the first thing. It's the first thing. I'll get a call every day. People will, and they are saying it, like, and people can be parochial and look after your own house first before you look after everyone else. People ring me and say, look, Jesus, such and such is underfunded. And I'll say, well, we're not getting the money. And the first thing they'll say, but they're sending it over there. And I'm there. I can't disagree with them, or I know they are, and that's a very frustrating concept. People say, look, funding for this is, how could you compare that to foreign aid? But it's still taxpayers' money. It still comes out of the exchequer. It's still, people say, I pay my taxes and it has gone out of the country. 450 million. There was a spate of announcements between the end of November, from when Zelensky visited Ireland to the middle of January, week after week, because I was recording it, and people were going to explode. They were really going to explode over this. Like I said, look, I think the inability, and I said it to you the last time I spoke to you, the inability of this government in particular to read the mood out there is just so it's horrendous. They really have stopped listening to what's going on the ground.
Do you think it's TDs, county councillors, as we always say, you are the hidden powerhouse of the political system, and you're grassroots, you are boots on the ground, you are within the community, you hear everything that's going on. And then, the TDs go up there and they work really hard. But once they get into that minister roles, do they is it like a bubble, and they completely detached from reality or what's happening in there?
Yeah, look, I'm sure you have TDs that go up, get elected to Dáil, and they have the best of intentions, the best of ideas, but they just seem to be institutionalized after a while.
The ministry.
Yeah, and what we have in this country is a strong party whip system. We've and I think we've gone too far with it. Like, there's no such thing. I know you have to keep the governments have to keep themselves in power, whether people agree with them or not. But we have such a strong party whip system. Like, say if Sinn Féin brought forward a motion as the opposition party about nurses' pay, Fianna Fáil, it's a motion. It's not legislation. It's a motion.
Yeah.
Why are the government voting against that instead of saying leave the motion through the Dáil and we can look at it in such and such a way? This idea that we have 40 Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael TDs being told to vote against everything. There's no such thing as a free vote anymore. You go to other countries and governments do survive without having the same level of party whip on their backs as we do here. It's really gone so far now where, like, I've spoken to TDs and they're telling me they're going in for voting on things that they do not want to vote for or against one or the other. I've spoken to TDs on both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and I'm saying, like, grow up here and speak up and speak out about it, instead of taking it every time, like, the party whip system, like, is really, in terms of Dáil voting, is really killing us. And we see it in other countries where coalitions do survive without the same level of whipping their members of parliament as we do here.
Do you think, like that you're saying, is it more party whips than it is bipartisan parties and politicians working together for the betterment
Oh, it's
of
party whips. I mean, look, you've seen over the last few months members of both government parties coming out and saying, backbenchers are not listened to. So it is party whip. It's party whip. This is what we're doing. It's both parties now who've gone so far in terms of top down dictation. This is what we're doing. This is what we're voting on. This is how you're voting, and it's really wrong. How can one? It's something I struggle with anyway. In terms of I suppose
vote accordingly.
I suppose,
and if you don't vote accordingly, you'll be kicked out.
Yeah, it's just something I couldn't have ever gotten to terms with anyway. And as well, locally, it trickles down locally. So if there's a contentious issue locally, be it around planning, be it around the iPass centres, be it around, other things that can arise, what comes from the top of those parties is stay out of it, it'll pass. That's wrong. I'm elected. My job is to, this will pass. Don't say anything about it. Don't comment on it because everything passes, And that's something I really struggle with locally, that idea of keep your mouth shut because this will pass. That's something I will get into probably why I left the party, but that was that is something I couldn't cope with, to be honest. I really struggled with that. Yeah.
That actually leads nicely to the next question. You left Fianna Fáil in 2024. You cited the coalition was out of touch, and basically Fianna Fáil had abandoned a lot of their core values, but you found that very difficult to deal with. How did you come to that conclusion that you decided
it wasn't
better off being an independent councillor?
It wasn't something that I woke up one day and said I'm leaving the party. It was something that was playing hard with me for months and months and months beforehand. Like I said, Fianna Fáil have since 2016, again in 2020, have effectively amalgamated with another party. I would have been very strong, outspoken against that. That's the first thing. COVID times were different, in terms of they were ramming through things without listening to people on the ground, and just that detachment from listening to people on the ground and reading the people and reading the room, they became so detached from reality that I just said I can't cope with this anymore. I really can't, and they have been. Both parties have been led to places where their elected members don't want them to be led to, but they want, a lot of people just look for an easy life, won't say anything, but that whole, you can't say this, you have to be careful about saying that. It's just something I said, to hell with it. If I wanted an easy life in politics and I'd be this career politician running around the place, I would have sat there, and pandered away. But like I said, to hell with it. I'm going to be my own person. And the definition of an elected rep, the definition of a TD is a messenger to the Dáil. Your job is to go up there with the message. That whole concept is gone. And I just thought the way politics was going in this country, I just, and I've been in political parties, you see things, you hear things, you see what's going on, that certainly played a part as well. A lot of it I probably couldn't say on here tonight. And I'm happier. I'm a much happier person since, I do not regret it whatsoever. People say to me, do you regret it? No, not one. I regret a lot of things in life. I really do, but I don't regret. I do not regret the stance I took, and whatever about one leaving the party, obviously it's going to cause resentment between party supporters, between me having left the party, but something that struck me, and it was a time of heightened. People say, "Oh, well, you left the party because you were protesting against an iPass centre in the middle of your town." It was the final straw. But it by God, it was not the major contributory factor to why I left that party. But they will spin it as it was. And I saw. I'm still very angry over what happened to me after I left, in the immediate aftermath. Because you saw last week, or a couple of weeks ago, that lady in the UK, Suella Braverman,
yes.
who defected from Conservatives to Reform. And
Yes.
the Conservative Party put out a statement. We tried to reach out and help Suella with her mental health, make her out to be a mad. You know, and I know I'm not at the level of British parliamentary politics, but that's what was done to me. That's what I was politically assassinated, and they completely gaslit me from the top of that party down to a lot of other people. And the message was, he's mad. He's lost it. He's mad. He's gone dead. You know, and that type of
and two other Fianna Fáil councillors in Galway, Noel Thomas and Seamus Walsh, they had similar issues in Outer Ard. They subsequently left Fianna Fáil and joined Independent Ireland. Noel Thomas is now a by-election candidate.
Noel Thomas won't mind me saying this because I know Noel Thomas. Noel Thomas was dragged from his house at 7 o'clock in the morning by the guards. Do you know? I won't get into... Look, obviously we have to be careful what you say here, but like, after he left the party, you know, like, so the assassination of what they've done to people and the assassination of what the major parties have... Look, obviously one of the major issues over the last few years has been the debate on immigration and how we can manage it and how we can't manage it. And they politically assassinated people for saying exactly what they're saying themselves now.
Yeah.
You know, and that is something I will never reconcile myself with. You know, I'm not being dramatic here, but I think we're nearly in state apology territory here. The way they absolutely crucified, assassinated people over a period of time. And yet the leaders of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Justice Minister can come out now and say exactly what we were saying back 3 years ago. And that is tough to take. I'm glad they've moved to that viewpoint, don't get me wrong. But like, what the lives and careers of people they really did try and ruin is something I'll never forget. It's something I will never forget. Yeah.
We were one of the very few people and podcasters, especially that we didn't know, like, we were talking about immigration and we thought, oh my God, we said, okay, well, this could get us off the YouTube channel. Talking about immigration. And I said, no, we could lose the channel, but we'll do it anyway. And
look, I don't want to be defined by immigration. My language around it was very moderate. It was, hey lads, we've a problem here. We've turned gangsters into millionaires with iPass contracts. We spent billions on them. And like, I was no raving lunatic about it. I was saying, like, it's simple numbers. It's simple numbers in terms of, like, and I said it then, and it's happening now in terms of, look, all these people are coming into IPAS centres. They will have their status assessed over an 18-month period. A vast majority of them will probably be given leave to remain in the country. When they're given that, they're told to leave the IPAS centres. Where are they going to go?
And we have a homeless crisis. Homeless crisis of 18,000, and 5,000 of those are children.
And that is, you know, the point I was making as well, is that, you know, people will throw back at you. We need high levels of immigration. We need to keep our workforce, you know. And the people that come in to work in this country come in through a work permit system. They do not come in through the asylum system. Okay, they come in through, they apply for their work permit, and they are the people that we need in our hospitals. They are the people that we need in our tech sector. They are the people that we need in our hospitality. But they are applying for their work permit and coming in, and they're not costing the state when they come in.
Yeah,
they're not a burden on the state when they're coming in because they're not coming in claiming asylum.
And at the same time, all our young people, especially in the health service, are all emigrating. You got the teachers, you got the nurses, you got the doctors, engineers. They're all emigrating. They're coming back because of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah. You know, like, look, part of life has always been travel when you're young and come home. You know, but look, like we spoke about last week, people are just finding that life, you know, that they're afraid to come home. You know, I'd love to be saying I have the solution to all that. I don't, you know. But look, we've confused it so much, but the government added to that in the sense that, yeah, we have high asylum numbers coming in, we're spending billions in IPAS centres, but I wasn't criticising the people that were coming into this country, getting their work permit and going into their going into the hospitals and going into the, but they tried to combine it into all the one that's what we're all on about, and it's two very separate issues. The work permit system, the asylum system. We were taking in vast numbers of asylum seekers, and we weren't able to manage them. Like you saw it in Dundrum, you saw it in other places where the only hospitality, because people smelt the money, the people that owned them smelt the money, and said we'll make a killing here fast, from state contracts, so they were taking hotels out of like what were the figures in Cllr? 40%, nearly 35% of hospitality accommodation was gone in the space of 18 months in Cllr. East Cork.
And that takes away from the local economy.
Oh, sure.
And the tourism, the local economy.
Yeah.
The small local businesses.
I'm sure, absolutely. But I get back to it does. Losing those businesses. But again, I get back to the point that, look, I'm sure if I was too outspoken to you here tonight, you wouldn't leave this out. I don't think anything I'm saying here is over the top.
No, I don't.
Very logical.
But the berating and the organised smearing of people like myself by some in political parties, was, because it came like I left the party in March, local elections June. Elections are intense, they're tough, they're battlegrounds. General election in November. So I contested 2 elections in the space of, we'd say, June and November, in the space of about 5 months. It was it was ample time for them to I suppose to smear the bejesus out of me, as Ivan Yates would say,
I love him.
And it's fine. I'll take that on the chin every day of the week.
Yeah.
I'll take the heat. I don't, it's toughened me up big time. But I don't need to be, going home and being told, this is what we heard about you. It was, and that's something I'll never get over. Like when Ivan Yates said, smear the bejesus out of Catherine Connolly, like the whole, oh my God, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil were saying, this is terrible. Ivan, you're a bad man. You're a bad man, Ivan, saying that. They've been doing it since 1922 to people, politically. So it's just what would you say, the hypocrisy of some of them it just beggars belief. But look, like I said, time moves on. I'm enjoying the job now more than I ever did. People say you must have been devastated when you didn't get elected to the Dáil. No, not really. Not really. I love local politics. I'm happy where I am. Again, it was just the momentum I had after the local elections. I said, we'll give it a cut, and I firmly believe there was an imbalance in our constituency where we had no TD in the north. I said, I'm running because we've no TD in the north of this constituency. Look, if it's myself, great. If someone else gets elected and it's not me in the north of the constituency, we can work with that as well. Because as councillors, we felt the last time in the north of the constituency, Cork East is the constituency, so you have North Cork and East Cork. We felt we were doing the work of a TD. So, look, we wanted a TD to be elected. Yeah. We got him. Look, Noel McCarthy was elected. Best of luck to him, So, but people say to me, oh, Jesus, how did you get over it? It was close. I had 15 minutes the next day to think about it, and I said, life goes on.
300 votes, was it?
Yeah. And at one stage, Noel was elected, and there was 9 votes between us. So,
9?
Yeah, and the Fianna Fáil candidate, Deirdre O'Brien, who was eliminated before me, who I would be friendly with. I have good working relationship with Deirdre. People were saying she was eliminated. There was 9 votes between me and Noel, and people were saying, "Jesus, the Fianna Fáil Gene Pool vote might come back to you." I remember the Sunday morning, and I said, "Forget it. They are going to punish me." So, all my family supporters, there was 9 votes between you, Noel, and Deirdre had been eliminated. You've got to get back to Mallow. I said, they're going to punish me. they're not in forgiving mood with William O'Leary at the moment. So I knew it was. I knew. And I look, during the day of the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were transforming to each other when candidates were being elected. I mean, Fianna Fáil came out after and said, we got a great result, 44 seats. it was a bit of a fluke, and I'll tell you why, because they just stayed ahead of enough of Fine Gael candidates for final seats, we'll say. That when the Fine Gael candidates were elected, they were electing the Fianna Fáil candidates. They won the battle for last seats in a lot of areas. No, look, come here, all the seats are the same size, as I say. It doesn't matter whether you get the first seat or the last seat, But like in terms of the final, Fianna Fáil just enough of Fianna Fáil candidates managed to stay ahead of Fine Gael candidates who were eliminated and elected them, which further cements my view that look, they're effectively the one machine now, and as I said to you last week, that's not healthy nor good for Irish politics, and as long as they can combine their numbers, they can be there for a long time yet,
Do you think do you see a change, the tide is changing, because we got the same political parties, as we mentioned in the last programme. The only difference between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael is one was in government and the other was in the opposition.
Yeah.
Do you think people now are saying, okay, could there be a tide of people voting for more independence parties?
I would say there's an outcry out there for an alternative of some sorts, whatever that is. And I don't think the United Left and I don't think Sinn Féin is the answer. I think, not that they're not the answer, but I think there's an outcry out there from kind of a centre-right ground, kind of I'm a centrist, but I would veer centre-right, in a lot of things, but there's definitely an outcry out there for that,
common sense politics.
Yeah, that's it. Look, and we're seeing attempts made at it. How far they'll get, I don't know. Only time will tell that. With political parties that have set up in the last few years that would be of that mindset, I don't know how. We have seen political parties set up in the state before. They've done well initially. Then after a period of time it fizzles out for whatever reason. The PD's been the big example of that in history. So it's tough. It's tough to keep a new political party going.
And
people who were considered who were a part of the Labour Party or who were left. And I came up from an SDLP background, voting background. Paul and I both met in the Labour Party. I was the women's officer for the Labour Party.
I'm glad you brought up the Labour Party, because it's a crying shame what has been left happen that party. I was driving home from somewhere last week, and look, everyone wanted the cap in Dublin Airport to be lifted.
Yeah.
And then it was lifted. It's going to be a huge benefit to this country. And then the Labour Party coming out saying, what about our climate targets? I'm saying the Labour Party were respected in this country for so long. Yeah. They were respected, and they whatever stance you are in life, they're the oldest political party in the state, but they were respected because they cared about the worker, the real working family person, the real working parents. They stood up for that for a long time. But this track that they've gone off, and I've heard if they stuck to just that, the Labour Party could look. I know they got roasted in the Kinney government, but they were some strong politicians there. The John Brutons, the Eamon Gilmores. I wouldn't be a fan of Rabbit, but we will say, but they were of good work, and they really their morals were right. But this idea, they've gone down the line of the social side of things. They've gone down the line in the last 10, 15 years. And the international view they take, is just so far removed from how that party was founded. Being honest,
would you say, because if we take on the economics, the thing with kind of left parties, that the kind of the conventional thinking has kind of shifted more kind of centre to the centre right. So you have the likes of the Labour Party, they have to find a way to distinguish themselves from mainstream.
I think
they veer more towards social issues.
I think that I think the Labour Party were always a party of the economy in the 60s, the 50s, the 60s. They mightn't have been in power, but they were, at the end of the day, how did Labour get to 30? In 2011 they got 40 odd seats. Now, how they got that? Because of the economy, because of their views of how working people were trampled on over the crash. it was their views on the economy got him elected, and they've gone away from this economic viewpoint to this whole social agenda that nobody. Look, obviously, I'm not here to.
Some people say social agenda. I'll say it, right?
Yeah.
As a woman, they've gone down this woke, fake, liberal, lefty, airy-fairy science. They don't believe in this. They don't even know what a woman is. They won't define what a woman is. They think children can change their sex and should be thought that in school. That's But I was a Labour, and anyone who in Labour who have family values, a moral compass, but have common sense politics. I'm left, but I would be viewed now as a conservative woman or conservative far right. I take away labels. I just say common sense, common decency, and community and values.
Yeah, but I'll say, look, Labour's viewpoint wasn't all that wrong down through the years. And since you pay your taxes, you'll get your services. People will live and work with that. And they were real champion of the working family and the working parents, and but they've forgot all that. I know I think they took a bruise in elections after 2016 onwards, but like the path they've gone down hasn't worked for them. No, and they were a respected institution, but the people are. The Social Democrats seem to have taken the mantle of what Labour want to be anyway. Do you know what I mean? And the two finest public representatives on Cork County, two of the finest public representatives on Cork are the two Labour people, because they're in their community. They're of that old Labour value, and there's Cahill and Ronan, and two working men. Like we had a great Labour TD in this constituency for years, Joe Sherlock.
Yeah.
Great man. Great man. He kept Mallow Hospital open. He kept Fermoy Hospital open. That's that's the type of delivery people want to see locally. Like, he was a great councillor, great TD, but that type of politician now in Labour is, in terms of the parliamentary party in Dublin, is certainly not what people want. They don't want it anymore.
Do you think have the left gone more concerned by international politics and their own politics?
I do. How much of it all speaking time every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is taken up and leaves questions about what's going on around the world. And I know, look, you have to have we were a sovereign nation. We have to play our role in international affairs. But for it to dominate the amount of time it dominates is not proportionate either. People are sick of it. They're sick of it. Like all this week, what are we hearing about Will play Israel? That's what dominated the week this week or last week in politics. And you had the United left standing up and saying it was outrageous. That's not doing anything for delivery for people on the ground. And people, I was actually out in the European Parliament there, and an Irish MEP independent, so people can, through the process of elimination, figure out who he is. Ex-Labour, actually, said to me, people in this country, the one thing that, if the economy crashes, that's when people will put up with a lot, but at the end of the day, the number one concern in this country is the economy, and always will be, and how it's going. For people who are working, it's the economy. It's the main driver of who people vote for, why they vote for them, and why did Fianna Fáil crash in 2011? The economy. They were punished. Why did Labour get booted out of office and Fine Gael lose half the parliamentary party in 2016? The economy, and for no other reason.
What's the old saying? Is the economy stupid?
Yeah. So people are they'll take punishment in so many parts of life in terms of socially or whatever, and they'll put up with it. They'll be angry. They'll put up with it. But once they feel it in the pocket, that's at the end of the day. That's what people will look at the end of the week as their metric as to who's doing well and not doing well. And so many political parties have just forgotten that concept. And
William, do you think, if you look back, say, had you got elected and Micheál Martin, Simon Harris, I know I asked you this the other night, had they rang you and said, look, would you support a government?
No.
And what would be on your kind of topic?
No, and I'm going to hold my hands up and be honest here. No, from the sense that I feel strong opposition has been lost, and we need some voice of reason at the other side. would have hoped I would have been a cohort from the other side that could have been that voice of reason, and no from the reason that I was just too bloody angry with them. In the sense that I was, I mean, like the fact, as I said to you last week, Paul, the Civil War politics in this country was the worst thing ever. People say, "Oh my God, what's he saying now?" But at the end of the day, you had Fine Gael in opposition, Fianna Fáil in government. There was a drive for one to replace the other, and people mightn't have liked them or even voted for them, but still it provided that competitive edge in politics, if John Bruton or Enda Kenny were in the opposition, they were striving to get over to the other side. Their TDs were. The minute from 2016 onwards, that whole thing was lost, and it took out that competitive edge. It took out any level of reasonable opposition at the other side, because Sinn Féin are struggling. They will wake up every day and they will decide on the day. They were some of the most vitriol. And look, we spoke about immigration. I don't want to keep going on about immigration because I don't want to be defined by that. But their party and some of their supporters were some of the most. They were absolutely some of the most, like, against myself now and others who would have had concerns at the time. They were some of the most. What they said about people, Paul, would have been an absolute disgrace,
From Brits out, I'm from Derry, from Brits out to, hey, all welcome, open borders.
It is that. But like, the people can see through them, that they'll just blow it whatever way the wind is going on a given day. And if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. And that is to be said about Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael as well. No one can tell me what they stand for. Like back in the day, Fine Gael, law and order, and prudent economic spending. Fianna Fáil would have been, again, like the Labour Party, the working family, the working man, we'd look after them, a good Republican ethos. But all that is gone. It's gone, and
where do you see politics going?
I don't know. It's becoming more fragmented in a way, in the sense that, it's you're going to get a lot of splinter groups. I come on here with all the criticism sometimes, and I don't have all the answers, and that's I have no problem saying that. Like political parties are like the makeup. There's no political party ever going to get 60 or 70 seats again. So, what are the makeup of future governments going to be? I don't know. All I'm saying is that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, while they have this type of agreement in place for the next couple of elections, will run fairly close to going back in again. I think after the next election, they're going to have to certainly look at a more formal sort of is merged the word? I don't know, but some sort of a more formal agreement. They can't go into a third coalition in 2029 if they get re-elected and differentiate between them. So I think we are looking at a more formal agreement between those parties down the line. To be honest, whatever form that takes. That
people in those in all political parties, and people go into politics for the right reason, the right intention, for the right to
absolutely
the community. But is it because the control is there from let's say the Princess Diana called them the men in grey suits, from the civil servants?
It goes back to the party whip system, which is very strong in this country. I think people are not voting with their conscience now anymore. They're voting, being told what to vote for and when to vote. Look, I know you have to have a level of that in any parliament to keep it functioning, but like I said, you go to the likes of Germany, France, I know bigger countries, more even in the UK, different political system, I know, but the party whip system is not as strong there, Jesus, I understand if the Taoiseach gets a vote of no confidence in the morning, the government falls. But if Fianna Fáil are putting through legislation, right, on a certain thing, I don't know, or Fine Gael, or the government as I call them, the regime, if they're putting through legislation on something, say, I don't know, and anything, it could be legislation on anything, right? And 10 or 11 Fianna Fáil TDs vote against it, and the bill doesn't pass. Does the government have to fall because of that? I don't think so. I think you can still have a functioning parliamentary system. The legislation just doesn't get passed. You move on, okay? But this idea that government has 80 TDs. All 8 of them have to vote on a bill, or else they lose the party whip. You know, the government doesn't have to fall if certain legislation isn't passed. Obviously, some legislation is more important than others. Obviously, it's higher of higher importance, and obviously maybe that has to be looked. Like, obviously, the budget has to be passed.
Oh, the budget,
if the budget
absolutely,
has to be, if the budget's not passed, the government falls. But like, if I put in, if Fianna Fáil put in a bill on removing the television license, and the Fianna Fáil party, half of them are Fine Gael, don't vote for it, and the legislation doesn't pass, so be it. Move on. Next day, next work. This idea that you're whipped to vote on every line is madness. It's madness.
I heard the other day that RTE, what was the word, Paul? I said they have a clarity officer now. A clarity, someone, something like that. I can't remember the word.
Yeah.
I mean, RTE. I mean, one, they should be debunked. It should be completely no funding should go to RTE. You cannot. It's only you cannot have any political balance, or political difference on a panel. And if you do, it's one against and 3 for. Yeah.
So like, this is my point. Say, look, you can't have a different view in a parliamentary party anymore. So say if they put in legislation tomorrow to, you know, they were giving more money to RT, that's what the government were doing, and 15 or 20 TDs in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael say, hey, this is not good enough, no, we're not voting for this.
Yeah.
And the bill doesn't pass. That's not reason enough to bring down the government. Like, it's just people with their conscience voting for something they're standing up on, do you know? This idea.
My question, William, you've been in a party, you're an independent. You probably know the answer. Could you see yourself joining a political party again?
No.
Have you been approached by any of these?
I have been approached. Yeah, but look, certainly no. I couldn't. I just decided I've been told what to do again, and I've, you know,
you've been there, you've done that.
Yeah, and look, like I said, I've never been happier with the job I'm in, with the work I'm doing, you know, and you know, there's only one member of my political party at the moment anyway, and that's myself. So I'm the chairman, the secretary, and the president of it. So I'll surely get the nomination again if I'm going for something out of this party. Yeah.
William, you are a health advocate, and you've been very vocal on advocate for the National Prostate Cancer Program for men. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So look, to something, you know, that's, you know, obviously, look, it is the most common cancer in men, prostate cancer, at the moment, well, always has been. You know, we've seen some very good screening programs with regards to bowel and breast check that are very successful in the country. I know we've had a serious cervical check scandal, but look, the bravery of those women who stood up against the system made the system more accountable, you know, so that's not to be forgotten either. So look, you know, at the moment, men can only get tested for prostate cancer if they go into their GP and ask for it, you know. Whereas if there was some sort of a national screening program for men over a certain age to be screened as you would be for breast or bowel, you know, it's the early diagnosis of it is the main thing, you know, and a lot of people who are, they would be asymptomatic, you know, and, you know, if it was caught early to treat it, it is the most treatable as well. The problem with it is that when symptoms do come on board with regard to prostate cancer, it can be more progressed than what you would like, and it's been caught later, and obviously, look, that can have serious consequences as well. So I suppose, you know, it's that early detection is what I'm about, you know. Look, we all know someone now who has it, you know, we all know someone who knows someone who has it, you know, so it's just catching it early and treating it before see symptoms coming on, and then going and getting their test done and being told it's going to be a harsher treatment process. It's going to be, or even being given the worst of news, to be honest, you know. So yeah. So look, you know, we've made some good progress with regard to screening, particularly for cancer, you know. So I think they should be on a par with it. Prostate cancer, it should be on a par with it, yeah, in terms of screening. Yeah.
And infrastructure and utilities, especially regarding the wastewater infrastructure, and road, and like how can you build more houses if you haven't got the the
And
wastewater, the infrastructure, and the amenities.
yeah, that's what we're suffering with down here at the moment, particularly in a number of villages, you know, that we'd love to see sustainable growth in, that will allow them grow and keep the schools going and keep the J clubs going and keep the shops or whatever open. But there's one or two places down here which there's no prospect of building because the wastewater isn't up to capacity, and there's no prospect of Irish Water funding it overnight anyway, you know, which is so sad to see in these places because, look, they're dying a slow death. I suppose, you know, in terms of infrastructure, you know, I got a fair eye opener driving up here to Buncrana yesterday, and I went through the N13 and the N50, and you should see the condition of those routes. Impeccable. Impeccable. You know, the national routes, you know, key corridors, and they were surface, lovely signage, making it safe. You go down to Cork and the N72 and the N73, and it's the same as what they were when the donkey and cart were on them. You know, 100 years ago. The N72 and 73 are two key routes going through the heart of North Cork from Rosslare back as far as Cllr, you know, and they just have been they just haven't been maintained. You know, like in Cork has fared badly in the last number of years in terms of funding, in terms of everything. It is fair. We've got county council staff and executives who are doing the best with what they have, which is peanuts. But at the same time, you know, like, and I'll say it again, I've been very critical of some people. We had the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, and another government minister in government during the last all. They did nothing for Cork, and they were all from Cork. You know, in terms of infrastructure, we are being crucified down here. I mean, you know, I know Eamon Ryan, and he's more spending on greenways and this and that compared to roads, which was just madness. You know, hasn't really left the train of thought of civil servants yet in the Department of Transport. That's a big problem as well. You know, but like, yeah, Cork in terms of, you know, like in terms of other counties is completely underfunded, and we're the biggest county in Ireland as well. You know, but you know, like we've had ministers, Taoiseachs, Taoiseachs, you know, and at the end of the day, I don't see what they've delivered for Cork County and or Cork City, which look is a different local authority. But you know, how many times is that shovel going to be turned into the convention centre in Cork? You know, it's like Trigger's broom now. It's had that shovel has had so many lids and so many heads and so many handles. You know, so look, in terms of delivering Cork, we've been left behind, and we've missed a chance because we've had people in power that could have delivered, and I think history won't be as kind in time to show what they've delivered for Cork. You know, which is on them really. You know, so look. I don't want to be completely critical. I don't want to be completely negative on here either. But look, that's certainly, you know, there's been a failure of government parties to deliver in Cork. You know, over a sustained period of time. Yeah.
I love going down to Cork. I think people in Cork are so friendly. They remind me of the people where you are right now, of Derry and Donegal. You know, you've got that sense of humour, you've got that warmth.
Yeah.
I love going down, and my daughter's always shown me these little beautiful beauty spots, and even down walking along, is it like along the port, along the walk?
Yeah.
There? Beautiful. There's beautiful places in Cork. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Cork is the best county in Ireland. I'm biased, but it is like it is in terms of everything, in terms of from the characters in Cork to the hospitality of Cork to
the hospital.
Yeah. Look, we're lucky. We need another hospital here, to be honest. In time, but look, in terms of everything in Cork, like, you know,
we have to finish the children's hospital first.
Oh, I know. But look, it's just the delivery of infrastructure in this country, in terms of new infrastructure, like you've seen the debacle around the children's hospital.
Yeah.
You know, it should have been done however long ago, and it should be up and running. You know, but we are so bad at delivering infrastructure, and like during the Celtic Tiger, people would criticise the likes of Bertie Ahern for this and that. These people still got they got infrastructure delivered. You know, the John Brutons, the Bertie Ahern, the M8, the M7, the M9, all them motorways were delivered and developed.
What happened?
When they developed State Quango after State Quango, TII, and I just the ability to deliver in the mid-90s and early 90s. Things were delivered in terms of infrastructure or roads, like 3 motorways, Cork, Limerick to Dublin, you know, Cork to Dublin, Waterford to Dublin. They're all done relatively quickly, you know.
Do you think that has it got, as you said, Quangos, NGOs,
Yeah,
have
yeah.
they all interfered? And like they're getting lots of, have they become the unofficial government as
Sure. Come here.
advisors
It
and
is
deciders?
look for the civil servants, particularly the Dublin, in departments. I don't want to be. I'm not anyway critical of local authority
Yeah.
staff because they're
No.
working with peanuts.
Hardworking.
Yeah, but these people in departments, I don't know what, in terms of their ability to deliver important projects.
It was very-
It's just so soul destroying.
Do you think should over the years, Paul and I have been talking to county councillors, and there's a lot of division over, bring the powers back. The county councillors, the powers have been taken
they're
away
gone.
from the county
So,
council.
like at one stage, the county councils had control over water,
Yeah.
wastewater. They had an ability to deliver. If they were given the money, they'd deliver the project. That was taken off them. Even small things from bin collections, that was taken away from local authorities. And what went happened the time after that was privatised. Illegal dumping went up twofold. The local authorities knew who had the waste permits from every house, knew if they had a bin or not. See, that's basic. So everything that the local authorities had control over was just slowly eroded. Like even their ability to make their own development plans and zone land that they want to zone and that so that's quickly been eroded away as well. Up to
Build housing too as well.
Yeah. The quickest people, like if the local authority are told there's 80 million, they'll build the houses. Give them the money, they'll build the houses. Whereas they're not being given the funding. Like Cork County Council, they go on about public houses for public land. Any site, public lands in Cork County now, publicly owned land are being developed on because Cork County Council are delivering on them. It's not the government, it's the council that are doing that, So look, I staff in local authorities are like councillors in local authorities. They don't get the money that they need to deliver, And if they had, they're from the county. These staff, they're like us. They're from the areas. They want to see it delivered, things delivered, but they're not. Their hands are tied as well. They're just not given the scope or the room to deliver key projects, And it's getting worse. Sure, Jesus, like to get a pothole filled now. It's just a rigmarole to everything. There's just a rigmarole to everything.
William, what's the best part of being a county councillor?
What is the best part? The best part is bringing someone up and telling them you've done what they asked you to do. That is a great part of it. Also, if you're delivering, like that's the interpersonal side of it. Obviously, there's the wider side of it, in terms of projects for communities, and if you get one or two of them over the line, you can't get them all over the line, but if you get one or two community projects over the line, it's a great feeling of I suppose fulfillment and things like that. You just feel like you've made some difference. I think people will say, like, what do you want to get out of politics? All I want to say, whenever I finish this, it could be next year, I could be booted out in a couple of years' time. I don't know, but whenever I finish, I just want people to say, well, he did his best. There was no bull about him, and he left the place some bit better than what he found it.
Oh,
whatever level of betterment that is, I don't know. But that's if people say that about me, regardless of whether they agree with me or not, that'll do me. Yeah. So certainly
serving the people for the people.
Yeah, it is. And look,
public service.
Yeah. That's it. Like just do your best. That's all you can do.
And that's all anyone expects of you is to do your best.
Yeah, and of course, look, you're going back to people and you're going back to groups with bad news more than good news. But like if they realise that at least you tried, I think there's always an appreciation of that. There's a big difference between trying. Like I like you'd always get people, who would say, "I didn't do nothing about that." I said, "But I tried." And there's a difference between trying and not doing anything.
Yes, there's a massive.
There's a massive difference. Yeah. Look, I know I've been critical of certain elements of how the big parties are run, but look, at the end of the day, I work with our councillors and local authority, and be it Fine Gael, Fine Gael, they're hard workers too, especially down on the ground in Cork County. So look, it's important to acknowledge that, that I'm not being completely dismissive of their elected representatives either. They are hard-working, both men and women, and look, actually in Cork, what we have on the county is they go on about, gender quotas and the importance of that. That's a different discussion, but what we have is a lot of, we nearly have a 50-50 split between men and women, and I can tell you they are fairly formidable women on Cork County Council in terms of how they go about their jobs and and how they go about their business and delivering. So that's important as well, So yeah, look,
people enter politics for the right reason.
Yeah, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm a sportsman. When the referee blows the whistle after the game, leave it there, get out, and there's nothing carried out of council chambers or anything. Or look, we can be at public meetings with public representatives and they can be tense. They're tense while they're there, but once they're over, you're out. If they, I'll have a pint with any man or woman. At the end of the day, and just acknowledge there's good people with the right intentions in politics. That's always important to note.
Councillor William O'Leary, we've gone way past the hour, but you know what? It's always a pleasure to talk to you. There's always a vibrancy and a good energy, and it's a freshness, and that's in politics, in which I love. And we're delighted to give our viewers a more in-depth view of you and what you do and who you are, and because you are a regular on our Young People in Politics and our County Council Caucus Roundtable, so it's always nice to get this.
No, and it was good to be on. Always good to be on and talk to you as well, Roisin and Paul, and thanks again for giving me the opportunity to do it.
Well, you're up in my hometown, so we just have to get you on tonight. But no, and you have to go, because Derry people, even from my grandmother's day, God, that's going back over 100 years, to my mother's day, and my uncle John in England, he always says he misses Buncrana chips. So you have to go into the high street.
I will have, might need a lift in there. That's the only thing.
And get a bag of chips.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, because you're up there on a conference in a show, and we want to thank you for coming away from your conference and speaking to us here on the Irish Political Roundup.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed, Councillor William O'Leary.
Thank you.